Hi everyone! Today I'm here again with my friend Agata, who's a great fermenter, and she's gonna teach us 3 different basic techniques for how to lacto-ferment vegetables today. And the first one is fermenting in the vegetables' own juices, the second one is in a brine, and the third one is sort of a mix of the two. So I'm very excited to learn. I hope you are too, and I guess we should get started. Yeah, so we'll start. Yeah, so we'll start by showing you some technique where you ferment the vegetables in its own juices, and we're going to make sauerkraut.
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll get started. And for that we use the cabbage as the main component.
Yes, and then we're gonna have some carrots.
Yeah.
And some ginger and some turmeric.
For like a flavoring,
Yes.
and it will also give it a nice color. And you also need salt, right?
Yeah, we need some salt.
And that's helps with the fermentation. You always need salt, or?
Well, it makes it much easier to ferment with salt. It is possible to ferment without salt, but especially as we are beginners, I really recommend to start with salt, because salt, first of all, will help us to extract juice from our cabbage. It helps to break down the cells of the cabbage, and we just need to use less of our muscle to
massage
get the juices from the cabbage. We work on creating the environment that will be favorable by the lactobacteria.
Yes.
And they don't have problem with salt.
Okay.
Other bacteria which we don't want in our jar, which are responsible for rotting, they don't like salt.
Okay.
So creating the salty environment make it easier for lactobacteria to grow there and to dominate in the jar.
Yes.
And make it in that way safe for us. What's more, the salt is also very good because it slows down the fermentation, and in fact we want to slow down the fermentation to keep it nice and crunchy. It's really good. And after like fermenting a few things, you will see that it's actually the problem that it's fermenting. If it's fermenting too fast,
yes,
we can enjoy it for longer time if we have some salt in it.
Okay, cool. So first we need to slice this up.
Yes, we need to slice it up, and we need to salt it and massage it.
Yeah, so that's what we're gonna do. To slice the cabbage, it's good to use a mandolin, which just makes it easy to make fine slivers, but you can also use a knife. And while I get the honors to slice the cabbage, maybe you want to tell us a little bit about how to create like the perfect environment for lacto-fermentation.
Okay, so what we need to make our lacto-fermentation. First we need our lactobacteria, but here we have a good news. They're already there on the vegetables, so we don't need to buy any specific, special bacteria cultures. We just use the vegetables. Then we need sugars, and again they are already there in the vegetables, and the sugars will be food for our lactobacteria. To eat up and produce lactic acid, which is gonna be preserving our vegetables. Then we need salt, what we mentioned before. It's good to use natural salt. We need an environment without oxygen.
Okay.
This is because our lactic acid bacteria, they don't need oxygen to grow, and all other bacteria which we don't want, and in our jar, and also mold, it needs oxygen. So that's we're gonna practice a bit after you're done with when we come to the point of putting to the jar.
Yes.
How to create in the jar the environment anaerobic, so oxygen-less environment.
Yeah.
Then, it's good to understand is that our lactobacteria is going to be eating up the sugars and creating this lactic acid, which is going to create the acidic environment, and this acidic environment make it not welcoming for the harmful bacteria. And also our lactic acid bacteria, they don't like competition, so basically they're gonna be if they have right environment to live, they're gonna be fighting off any the bad guys. Yeah,
that's the basics of creating the right environment. So I think something else we should talk a little bit about is the recipe and the ratio of different things in a combination. Would you like to tell us a bit?
Yes. So the recipe we're doing today, you can also do it with completely different vegetables and with different spices. We just decided to do this recipe because I really enjoy this kind of sauerkraut. But feel free, and it's also important that we do it here to present you so you understand how and why it works, to show you what is important in the whole process. You will have the recipe, link to the recipe.
Yes, I will put a link for the ratios of everything in the description box.
But what is important is how much salt do we need for our sauerkraut.
Yes.
And there is two ways of working with how much of the salt we use. One is just using your senses because and just salting it to taste, because we don't need to add there more salt than our usual likeness of salt.
Yeah.
Other and maybe better for beginners technique is to weighting the cabbage.
Yes. And the salt.
And taking something between 1.5% to 2% of salt.
Okay.
And
so there's a little bit of leeway there, somewhere between 1.5% to 2%.
Yeah, 1.5 is like the lower border, but and that is like the most of the people find it okay salty, like it's like 1.5% salty.
Yes.
Sometimes I do like that to keep it more easy that I only weigh the cabbage and I then take 2% salt, because I'm gonna add there's some carrots, I'm gonna add apples, and it will even out, so we finish with 1.5%. So you can do it either way, or prepare all vegetables and weigh them and then take 1.5% of salt.
For all that amount.
Or just take 2% and only use the cabbage. If cabbage is like 80% of the vegetable you're gonna use, like in our case. Yeah.
So it's not a strict science, it's more roughly, but as close to as possible.
Yes, I think it's sad that you cannot do here the testing, so you see what is the right level of saltiness. But it's really good if you also try like how it is 1.5% of salt and see that it's actually not so complicated. So if you just
learn to taste,
do it that way. Of course, if we're making like a really big amount of cabbage, then it's easier to weigh everything and add the right amount of salt. But if we're doing like one jar, then very often I just salt it to taste.
To taste, yeah. And while we're chatting, I wanted to ask, because a lot of people are sort of confusing pickling with fermenting. So what is the difference between the two?
Yeah, I think it is also very important to like see what is the difference, but also what is like limitation of different techniques of preserving. So generally, pickling is preserving in vinegar.
Yes.
And in that case, we preserve food by having it in this acidic solution of water and vinegar. For like short-term preservation, we can just put this solution of water and vinegar and store it in the fridge. But if we want to make it shelf-stable, we need to pasteurize it. So we need to boil it. And what is like the most important difference in this technique and in lacto-fermenting, in pickling and also in pasteurizing, we make it safe because we kill all the bacteria. So we use the high temperature and
boiling it.
Yes, or the boil to kill all that is living
in
our food, and in that way make it safe. In lacto-fermentation we do something completely opposite.
Yes.
We try to create as much lively as we can environment.
Yes.
And cultivate this
Bacteria.
right bacteria. So we have this bacterial farm in our jar, which make it safe. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's pretty interesting to understand that. Yeah, actually we save because it's alive.
Yes.
But it also creates some limitation. When we have some pasteurized jam or we have a pasteurized jar of vegetables preserved in vinegar,
yes.
Whenever we open it, we can expect it to taste the same.
Yes.
With lacto-fermenting, we need to accept the fact that this is alive and it's changing, and it's actually the beauty of fermenting vegetables.
Yes.
That each time we open the jar, it can taste a bit different.
Yeah.
And the process is gonna continue, and it's gonna be getting more sour and
change flavor.
Yeah, the flavors change. So we can play a bit with that with using lower temperature, so keeping our vegetables in the fridge. Yeah. But it's not gonna stop completely the fermentation process. And there was a question about how we can like arrest the fermentation.
Yes.
Well, we can do that if we freeze or we boil.
Yeah.
But then we actually kill our bacteria and we lost this benefit of probiotics in our food. Yes, so we need to accept it that lacto-fermentation is different, and it's not every time we open the jar it's gonna taste a bit different, but it actually opens the door for the creativity and for the whole spectrum of changing flavors, and we can play around with using it in a different ways, and when it's less sour and it's more sour and more fermented, usually I like it when it's at the beginning of fermentation. I like it to eat it raw, and I eat it as it is. And when it's more fermented, I like to add it to soups or
to dehydrate it. You make a spice from it. It's really good. Yeah, so you have different uses for it when it's young and when it's more mature. But yeah, you can't stop the fermentation unless you, or without ruining some of the benefits of it. And now I think we have enough cabbage here, I would say. So we're gonna weigh it and then add some salt to it and give it a massage to bring out the juices. So now we've added the salt in the right amount to each bowl, and we're gonna massage it. So that one's for you. And this one's for me. And when you massage for as long as it takes to a lot of juices to release, right?
Yes, or if you have time, you can just mix it briefly with the salt and leave it to stand for half an hour, 1 hour, and then you're gonna have to do less work.
Okay, so if you don't want to get strong arms and you have time, you just mix it and let it sit. Or you do like we do, you massage until the juices are released from the cabbage. Pretty juicy. Okay, so now we've massaged this for a little while, and as you can see, it's become quite juicy and it's soft. So we're gonna add some other ingredients to the mix now. We're gonna do the carrots and the spices and apple. So we'll move on to that. So we're gonna grate the carrots, and I didn't peel this now, and that's okay.
It's okay, we just clean the vegetables. Yes. And it depends of our preferences. We can peel them or we don't need to peel them. Yeah. With carrots, they can get a bit more brown color if we don't peel them. So if we care about them staying really nice and orange, then it can be a good idea to peel it. But if we don't peel it, we get some extra nutrition which we have in the skin.
Yeah, so it's the choice between aesthetics and benefits, health benefits. So I think now we've used about 1,200 grams of cabbage and 2.5 large carrots. And what are we gonna add next? The apple?
Yeah, let's go for the apple.
And we're gonna grate it as well?
Yeah.
Or cut it?
Let's cut it.
Okay. So now that we've added the apple and you've cut it beautifully, we're gonna put in some ginger, and I've peeled it because it's not organic, but if it's organic, Agatha says you don't need to peel it. And what about the turmeric? Should I peel it as well?
No.
It's okay without peeling?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Maybe to save your hands from becoming really super orange and yellow,
Yeah, it's better
you
to
don't
have
peel
it.
it.
Have the peel on.
Yes. Okay, so I forgot to say that for the ginger, I like to use this microplane. It's good for grating small things. And now that we've grated in the ginger, we're gonna grate in the turmeric. And for this, I have a glove, so that you don't have to get super yellow hands. If you don't mind, don't wear a glove. But I'm gonna grate in some turmeric in both of these. Okay, so that was the turmeric in there, and now I'm just gonna mix it all up. Should I squeeze it or just mix it?
Yeah, you can squeeze it lightly.
Not to break the apples too much, I guess.
Yeah, but then the last squeeze we're gonna do while we put in the jar.
Yes. So just mix it all really well so it's incorporated. So now it's mixed.
We're ready for putting the jar.
Yeah.
And here we can also talk a bit about hygiene during the whole process. So we don't need to be sterile. We just need to be like normal cleaners. Yeah. Same with hands and also with the jar. We don't need to sterilize the jar. We can just the usual dishwashing.
Like hot soapy water.
Yes, and that's enough to make it
Clean.
clean.
And same with your hands. When we've been massaging this, we had clean hands, but just with soapy water as well, but it's good to say.
Yes, so we don't need to also have gloves for the hygiene. This is more for protection.
Yes. And now when I'm putting this
Yeah,
in,
and you're putting it in, and it's good to start to pressing it down because we want to
protect it from air, right?
yes,
no oxygen.
We don't want to have any bubbles with air on the bottom, so we want to get the juice all the way up to the top of the jar. Yeah, but it's going pretty well.
So far, so good.
So far, so good.
I can add some more.
Yeah, you can continue and then do the last pressing down when we have almost full jar.
Yes.
And yeah, you can just press it down a bit more to get some more juice coming here. But when we have it with this, we are ready for the last step we're gonna make here.
Yeah.
It's gonna be putting some cabbage leaves as a lid, which we're gonna make this extra protection against the oxygen getting in contact with our fermenting vegetables.
Yes, because when you press it down, you get the water to come up, but sometimes the vegetables are still at the surface, and that's when it can make mold, right? Or something else.
Yeah, what is danger? If we have any oxygen coming here into our jar, there will be a surface come yeast. Yeast that, well, it's not harmful to have yeast growing in your sauerkraut, but it's not good because then we cannot store it for a longer time, because when we have some yeast growing, it's very easy that we're gonna get some mold growing over the yeast. So in a perfect situation, when we do it properly, we shouldn't have anything going there apart of our lactobacteria.
Yes.
So that's why to be really on the safe side, we're gonna use this cabbage leaf
as a lid.
Yeah, as a lid. We could also use some ceramic or stone weights.
Yes. Which weighs the vegetables down.
Yes, so we get this juice on the top, and everything is submerged in the liquid. Yeah. But the easiest thing we can do, with what we have at home when we have cabbage, is just putting this cabbage leaves. I usually add 2 or even 3 layers. First I use this soft part of the leaf, and then I like to use the part with the nerve, the harder part of the leaf, because it helps to hold it down. So now we have like the juice coming all the way up.
Yes.
And even if this leaf that is holding is sticking out from the juice, that's okay.
Yes.
Because yeah, when it's not cut, it's like in one big piece. It's not gonna be so easy for the yeast to grow there. So that's all good. And yeah, actually we are now ready to
start the process.
Yeah, to start the process. We're gonna close
Yes.
the jar, and yeah, the next step we're gonna keep it in the room temperature. With sauerkraut, there is no like one recipe, but like my usual suggestion is to start with 7 days in room temperature.
Okay.
If we like it more sour, we can just continue having it in room temperature, and when we get the level of sourness we like, we just move it to fridge to slow down the fermenting. So yeah, something between 1 week, 2 weeks is like the most of people I meet is their favorite.
Yes, their sweet
likiness of sourness.
Yes.
And yeah, let's keep our jar somewhere in the kitchen, and where we can have
where we can see it. Yeah,
we can see it. Good to have some plate under, because it can start
leaking out the liquid.
And every day we're gonna open it.
Every day.
Yeah, especially at the beginning of the process.
Yeah.
We're gonna open it and we're gonna press it down, because when the process fermentation gonna start, the bacteria is gonna be creating some gas.
Yes.
Which we want to escape our jar, because if we don't do that, yeah, we're gonna lose a lot of liquid, because the gas will be pressing out the liquid,
and it's gonna come out
and then it's gonna be danger that it's dry out in the top, and then we can get the growth of yeast and mold.
Yes.
And what's more, if we don't press it out, there is also a slightly danger of exploding of the jar.
We don't want that.
Yeah, especially if we have bigger jars and we have very vigorous fermentation.
Yeah.
It's good to like have an eye and observe it, and like decide how often we need to press it. But usually it's like once a day or once a 2 day after the fermentation proceeds, and it's become a bit slower. Yeah.
Yeah. But after about 7 days, we can taste it and see how we like it.
Yes, and then we can continue, or just have in room temperature, or have it in the fridge.
Yeah. So that's the first recipe done. Turmeric and ginger sauerkraut.